us what to do on cell-to-cell health and give us a little rundown of myofascial therapy, and they're just going to give us an overview of that, what's it and its implications in our overall health.
Okay, yes, as you asked me first, myofascia has got nothing to do with the facial massage whatsoever, Myo means muscular, and fascia is the connective tissue of muscular, the lattice that covers the whole body is the thin membrane that while it's healthy, it's nice and slippery, and you could see it was properly hydrated. You've got no problem. But once you start lacking of water, not enough drinking water, the whole connective, the whole meridians of the person is an electronic being that is connected with neurons and neurons connected in the synapses again with neurotransmitters, and the neurotransmitters float in a fluid, in a complex proteins and vitamins and minerals. Everything floats, but it's a tiny little thin, extremely thin, insignificant film. Now that insignificant part could be extremely paralyzing and disabling, and it's guilty for a lot of anomaly. People that feel pain, sometimes they have, one day the neck just can't move, they move one side and just can't go back because it's something holding there. When you realize, it feels like the whole body structure is gone, the muscle gone. And it's right, yes, the whole muscle is paralyzed because was small synapses between the neurons, and that's the neurotransmitters and the connective tissue of the cell. It just became brittle. It's like a spider web that one strand just became brittle, and it's activating the whole trigger. It triggers the whole muscle, so the muscle go into a spasm, and you think that's your neck head or something like that. So what we do, the myofascial release or myofascial paralysis release, is simply that. What it worked with the hands. It's a very gentle process, extremely gentle process, but it's a connective. The humans, we radiate energy, the energy that has been paralyzing a person by cross hand. Actually, the cross hand it works. You induce the endorphins, and the person starts feeling almost immediately. It takes it takes about 5 minutes between the contact established, between the intention, attention, and established contact to the person to actually feel that something is happening. That tight spot that is. If you it been paralyzing the whole movement, it all of a sudden becomes warm and unmovable again. If that fascia is forced, it actually feels like a broken glass, and sometimes has to be actually forced, because when you want to move the skin and rub the skin, it feels like needles going through it. That also, it's a good advantage, if you could feel that, it's good to rub it on and feel that glassy feeling underneath, because that stimulates your central nervous system and sends in the signal into neurotransmitters and releases many times. But most of the time people, although the nature, the natural effect of an animal, he'll just rub it, Animal will rub it against the tree and so on, and they're very smart to do that. Humans quickly run into some anti-inflammatories and things like that. That sometimes is when it's not properly diagnosed, it's suffering from the people. Hard to get up in the morning, hard to sit down in a chair, can't get up again, and the pain is distributed all over. There are trigger points that are identifiable, which has been published, but not everybody is the same, so not everybody squares up to the trigger point. The trigger point is a good referral, but some people develop myofascia on the shin spleen, some on the neck, the shoulders, in the let's say one of the typical area that most of the people, you would just go to the drawing there.
Yep.
There's a lot of muscles here on the back, in the shoulder blades. You know, you've got the rhomboid, trapezium, and so on. They're very powerful muscle. You use it very hardly. And then you've got the neck. All the neck is hold. Everything is a triangular point of balancing. You know, like a diamond balancing. Once you have one restriction, one of the paralysis, one tiny little muscle, the crossover muscle, that restricts it, the whole shoulder paralyzes, you know, the whole neck paralyzes. You know, then we have further down, you'll have the muscles, for example, a very heavy muscle of hamstrings, you know. Every single muscle is wrapped in that fascia. It's like a thin film bag. Any of them in the hamstrings around, it always accumulates, there always will be some neurons attached. That will produce immediately, whenever you have a problem there, the reflection will be on the lower back.
So it's around every single
Every single
structure.
organ of the body
And
is
organ,
wrapped.
right?
Every single organ, even every single muscle, wrapped individually and connected together back down to the central nervous system. And they believe now that there's something like 100 trillion cells interconnected, you know.
Yeah.
But one of those cells is enough to paralyze the movement of the body. One only, you know. Just one cell or one neuron that plays up and it just loses up connection. You could work it out. You could drink it water and work it out and so on. But it just keeps shooting back and forward, you know.
So it's like a break in the chain.
It breaks the chain. It breaks
Yeah.
up the synaptic chain from
Yeah.
it, and the nerve is it'll attach to another, which
Yeah.
doesn't belong. It may attach to a muscle like front muscles, you know, that they have to pull you forward, and yet the hamstring is still locked up, and you're walking like with the handbrakes on. You're like driving with the handbrakes. It's not a pleasant thing. And unfortunately, unless you detect it and you first hydrate properly your fascia, your connective tissues, you will start having problem. So the very first thing to prevent or any of the restriction, hydrate your body, good, clean, healthy water before you feel thirsty. Once you feel thirsty, you're burning oil at the back, you know. It's just looking back through the window in your car.
Yeah,
when you're
I have
smoking,
heard that. That's too
you're
late.
thirsty.
By the
That's
time
too
you're
late. You know,
thirsty.
it's already burning your fascia. You know, there's a lot of neurons already playing up, and eventually, you know, that is already the cold sign that went so many times to your central, to the unconscious mind, that's saying, "Hey, hang on, you know, give me some water." So, myofascia is a straightforward. It's part of every life. You know. You'll see the elderly people that they have the skin that is all sort of, you know, stays there, you pull it
Yes.
up like that and just
Yeah.
stays there, won't come back. They're just not drinking enough water. They're not drinking enough water. They're having a cup of tea, but cup of tea doesn't satisfy. Water, you've got to have water, exercise, and when you've done all the right things, then, you know, still doesn't help, then we go into the release of myofascia. But sometimes it hurts, yes it hurts, don't ask.
Right.
But then again, it makes you feel tremendously good.
So what's well, when it comes to myofascial, what's it, therapy, massage, what have you, what's the difference between that and say like other forms of massage?
Well, the difference of myofascial release is extremely gentle and works on areas, and it works in different stages, different area. First, the myofascial release, you start from the skin layer, and then you go deeper into the connective tissue, and it stays within there. Then the next step, once you have a nice, flexible and three-dimensional skin, then we go into the deeper muscles, and then into the soft tissues, and so on. So it's a technique that takes time to develop, you know. It is well explained, well taught, but it's a feeling. You've got to have that feeling. The establishing of contact between patient and therapist.
Yeah.
It counts. A lot of it has to be because the patient is the one that has to do the work. The therapist waits there, stretching and allowing the three-dimensional effect to happen. So the difference is slow. It takes a long time let's say on the therapy in one area, it takes up to 5 minutes to produce the whole endorphins and feel the serotonins to produce, so then the body relaxes completely. What I usually do, I do evaluation first, and then I work a little bit in a clinical hypnotherapy, which a person allows the unconscious mind to deal with the areas that it's affected. Most of the time we consciously want to control our body, but our unconscious mind is in charge of the well-being of our body, and relaxing, submitting yourself, recognizing the areas in the problem, and healing yourself into further areas. Because one release on the myofascia in one area, let's say, is still, we don't have shingles anymore. You know, now we know it's not shingles. Now we know it's a fascia, that myofascia that is restricted, and there's accumulation of non-functioning lattice of the connective tissue, and it produces in your shin splint, produces a horrible pain. Now that is when somebody's suffering from what it feels like shingle. Don't touch me there, the very first thing. With a normal massage you can't touch those legs, you know, because it's just unbearable. So that is it's a simple, but it's a body and mind change. Yeah. It is the difference is that you're not I'm not working on the person. When I'm working in myofascial release, I'm not working with the person. I can't work on you. I can only work with you. If you don't help, don't worry about it. Okay. So it's working, it's a different thing. It's working together towards one goal, good feeling.
Excellent.
It makes you feel good.
Yeah.
You know?
Right, so thank you for your time, Peter. That's totally excellent. And it's lovely being sharing this moment with you. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anytime.
Bye.